Welcome to the June meeting of the Grafton Accessibility Advisory Commission. We're starting at 6:40 p.m. on June 10th, right?
Yeah, yes.
So let me take attendance and then I will pull up the agenda. So just as you appear on my screen, Paula Turno,
Yes, here.
here, Christy Proctor,
Here.
Roger Trahan,
Here.
and Alexis Henry here. Okay. Hello, everybody. Christy, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad passing.
Thank you.
So sorry about that. We missed you last week. Okay. Here is our agenda. Quick announcements. You probably all got this email. The town has awarded a portion of its opioid settlement funds to GAP, G-A-A-P, which is an acronym that stands for something that I forgot. GAP Recovery, which is a local nonprofit that helps people and families impacted by opioid use. And I put the link there to their website, so to their site. So
It's a pretty decent amount of money, right?
yeah, yes, it was. I'm sorry, I didn't, yeah, it was, I can't remember now, but it was a sizable piece.
In the hundreds of
Yeah,
thousands of dollars.
thousands, yeah, but I like
Yeah.
over 100,000. It was in there were pictures in the link, so, in the email that, we could find out how much that was. So second item is Paula Turno and I have been reappointed to the commission at the select board meeting on June 3rd. Paul, did you get the notice that you have to go down and
Yes.
take the oath? Yeah, I did too. I haven't done that yet, but I'll get
Oh, I
that.
haven't gotten a notice to go down.
Yeah, I got a notice in the mail the other day that that says voted to reappoint you. As part of the appointment, you are required to take your oath of office. So you have to stop by
Yeah.
the clerk's office, the town clerk, during normal business hours and take the oath.
So that means that technically you're still active with this current fiscal year, but this is the
Yeah.
year starting 7/1.
Yes, starting 7/1. Yes.
Yeah.
For a 3-year term. Yes. So it'll begin July 1. So I will do that before.
Okay, I'm gonna need a ride down there because I don't have transportation. So,
Where do you live?
13 Forest Lane, North Grafton.
Right near Duncan's.
Yeah,
Oh, right, like up behind CVS in
Yeah.
there? Oh.
no. No, that's Maxwell Drive. This is up behind Dunkin' Donut.
Up behind Dunkin' Donut.
That road right after Duncan's if you're going towards CVS.
You know, Paul, when I'll send me send me your phone number and I'll give you a call when I'm
Okay, I'm gonna give you my landline because that's the only one I leave on all the time.
okay. Hold on a
Okay,
second. Yeah, give me your phone number now. I don't know exactly when I'll go. It's probably not going to be maybe Friday I'll go.
all right.
Are they asking for you to make an appointment to do that?
I don't think so. Let's see.
I thought that they liked to do that, and I think town hall
It says
closes.
stop by. It says I can stop by. I mean,
Oh,
I can make the appointment, but it says I can stop by.
Okay, and then I guess town hall closes at 1 on Fridays.
Oh, that's right.
So
Thank you for reminding me because I always forget that. Truthfully, Paul, I probably aren't, if I don't do it this week and I have a very busy week for work, unusually busy, I'm not going to do it until the week of the 23rd because I'm away next week. So,
Okay,
I'll give Cindy a call. I wonder if, can you do it by Zoom? I wonder if we can do it by Zoom.
No, what? No, you have to sign something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
you want you
Hold
want my
on.
number?
Yeah. Hold on just one second. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
774
Mm-hmm.
293
293
1585.
1585. I'll put you in my cell phone.
Thank you.
Okay. I will give you a call, but I won't text you because this is a landline.
right.
Okay. All right, moving on. Other than that, no external correspondence. And so let's review the minutes. I have the Word version of the minutes open, and I did my best to fill in for Christy, not as
did
good
awesome.
as her
No, you did
notes
awesome.
are. Took me a little
Awesome.
while to get them
Awesome.
Awesome. Ah,
done. Is there any edits that,
Well, I move that we
Oh,
approve
yes,
the draft minutes of our meeting of May 13th, 2025.
I
thank
second
you.
that.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Paul. Okay, any,
Yes,
Okay.
a couple of recommended edits that are just really super simple.
okay, go ahead.
And the first is that under 5B, the top of the fourth
Yeah.
page,
Yeah.
Roger Trahan made a motion, seconded by Paul.
Oh, okay, second, okay. Thank you.
All right. And then lastly, second and lastly, on the
Yeah.
last page, on the motion to adjourn, I actually made the motion and Paul seconded. You have it
Remember.
the other way around.
Good for you. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, can we have a vote to accept the minutes?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes
No,
as
I already
read.
made the motion.
Oh,
Okay.
And you had seconded. This
yes.
is just by roll call that you're gonna take the vote.
Okay.
Okay, so, Paul Letourneau, this is to accept the minutes. Paul?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Christy, can you accept or do you have to abstain?
Sh-
Well, you're on
sh-
mute, so.
Yes.
Okay. Roger Trahan?
Yes.
Okay, and Alexis Henry, yes. Okay.
Yeah, back in the day, you had to affirm that you actually watched the meeting and this and that. Now that's no longer the case. I think it was holding up minutes from,
Oh, gosh.
from prior months and years and things. And so now they're pretty easy. There's an
Okay.
honor system going on. So
That's nice. All right, I will send those along. So let me go back to the agenda. Whoop. Let me. Okay, so Christy, as you may have gathered, at least from the minutes, Mary Mertrand,
Mertland.
Merdland, came to our last meeting to talk about concerns about accessibility of the Grafton Public Library. It was a bit of a far-ranging conversation, but there was a specific focus on kind of the physical accessibility of the door of the building, particularly, and a particular issue was the door. So the main entrance and the timing of the main door opening, you enter a vestibule, and then the secondary door opening, and the timing of that, making it potentially difficult for wheelchair users because the inside door begins to close a little bit more too quickly for people with wheelchairs. So I talked to Tracy. About this issue because she was not at the meeting. And I shared with her the conversation that we had about sort of the broad question of accessibility, but this question related to the door in particular. And Tracy went to visit the library and she called me today to give me at least the initial assessment of the situation. And it is true that the two doors, they kind of open at the same time.
So she
Uh,
visited today, you said?
Tracy did.
Yeah, okay.
Tracy did. And because Tracy, I took notes as best I could. She was calling me from her car. So if she makes it in time, she may be able to add it. But so it is an issue of the timing of the two doors. And there is a question about whether the sequence of the opening can be adjusted so that once the first door opens, the secondary door stays open longer. There are two considerations about this. One is the ADA compliance question about the timing and how much time people should be, how much time should be allocated for people who are, wheelchair users to get through the two doors without it closing. It's the inner door that closes. But the other consideration has to do with the energy code and leaving the doors open. And these may be conflicting.
No, this is always going to be a problem. It's going to make it, just know that in the winter, it's going to be colder on the
Yeah.
first floor.
So that's just the sort of other consideration. She went to really assess the problem, to sort of look at what is going on. They're compliant, but there is an issue. So, sort of one thing that can happen is, so if you come up to the door and you hit it or you wave to get the first door open, if you come in and you wave at the thing again, it opens the second door. Do you know what I'm saying? People would have to sort of do it twice. There may be signage, there's an issue of like, could we create signs that make it clearer for people? But anyway, I think the main point is that Tracy's on it and sort of pursuing it and trying to come up with solutions. There is also an issue of the door itself if you are manually opening it, and it's been a while since I've been to the library, but it's heavy. It's heavy, even if you're not, someone who uses some sort of mobility device, even if you're just not that strong, it takes a fair amount of force, and she's going to have that assessed.
Or pushing a stroller or whatever.
Yeah, or push it, whatever, or, you're just, it takes a fair amount of strength. And so that's also something that could be adjusted with the hydraulics. It's just, the power you need to pull the door open is probably more than it should be. Anyway, so they have to look at, one solution is people have to like swipe twice, but they are going to look at the timing of the door opening and if it can be staggered. Right now, when you swipe for the initial door opening, they both open at the same time. And it's just that inner door is closing a little too rapidly for someone who would be using, some sort of equipment, or whether it's a chair or a walker, or even potentially a stroller or something, where it's just, you're not quickly walking through. So, that's the update that we have. So I don't know
And
that
then
I
the
have
other
much to add.
The other thing was, I guess it was the library, because it was being built old to new. It wasn't part of the ADA self-evaluation transition plan. And so I think Mary was looking for a general walkthrough, and because, so not only the doors, but just a general walkthrough to see if she saw anything that was,
I understood from Tracy that there was an assessment of the accessibility of the library.
the new library.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Are you saying separate from our ADA self-eval and transition plan?
Would that have been done after the new library was built?
No, it would have been before. And so,
I may have misunderstood it. This was not during the conversation we had today. It was an earlier
Right.
conversation when I first talked to her about it. And,
Right.
but I thought that she said that there was in fact.
well, the building permit and Mr. Berger, when he, to issue a
No,
building
no,
permit,
no, an
it would have had
assessment,
to,
not just that, no, an assessment by
well, that was
an
in 29,
independent assessment.
right, that would have been in 2019 before the new library edition was put on. And so it kind of renders everything moot. And so that's what she was referring to. But I think we basically said that with everything having been up to code and having needed a new, an occupancy permit, that it was by and large accessible, but the way maybe things were shelving or things in the way of other things. In other words, not permanent structures, maybe the layout of how people have arranged their workspace and how that may impact either patrons or employees. I think it was, I think it was described in our last meeting as something that wouldn't be too difficult or involved.
Right, right. Again, when I spoke to Tracy, again, not today, but when I followed up with her after our last meeting to tell her,
Right.
what the conversation had been with Mary, I for sure thought she said there had been an independent assessment of the library, and I for sure assumed that it was after the new building was open. So if, Roger, you're sure that that
Yeah.
was never done?
Yeah, the ADA self-eval and transition plan was done in 2019. It was right before we reconstituted as a commission after that 7 or 8 year hiatus. And so, yeah, that was before the new project. And so,
Okay. All right,
yeah.
well, let's, I would follow up with this. We can follow up again with Tracy.
So I have a question. How do you get an independent evaluation then?
I mean,
Cost-
there are agencies or organizations that can do that. I mean, the Center for Living and Working in Worcester would probably be an entity that could do something like that.
Well, it was
Sure.
Mike Kennedy at Center for Living and Working, and another gentleman who was contracted did it together. They were the ones
Mhm.
who did it, and so
But that was before the changes, right?
right,
It's before the new library, right?
right.
Right, so it would have to be redone?
Well, if they'll do evaluations one-off, but they cost money.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to pay them.
Everything costs money today.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a service that they provide.
Right.
It's like a consultation to the town.
Right.
It would be something that the town, the library, out of the library budget or the town budget, whatever.
So
we
who
didn't.
is responsible for making sure it gets done?
Library trustees
Okay.
or oversee, and I'm a library trustee, so I guess I'm
There you
throwing
go,
both
Roger.
hats
Why
on.
don't you
I'm throwing
put it on
that.
the library agenda?
I know, right?
Yeah.
We'll be meeting soon.
Okay.
So the other thing too is that and it was I was late to the game in putting forth the email, but Christy, you and Mary will be connecting for your brain power on assisting her in her efforts to make the library website as accessible as it needs to be. And you're on mute, Christy.
I was gonna ask, and you have a budget for this?
Right. Again, that's not a small undertaking.
No.
That's huge.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the thing, is that I didn't know, and because you weren't present at our last meeting, I didn't know how formal a thing this was, or whether you were just offering some informal suggestions and ideas as a member of the commission gratis, or whether you were a paid consultant in this.
Oh,
So Roger, just
I'm gratis. I'm definitely free, Roger.
All right.
Roger,
All
Roger. So I did also, I mean, we can jump to that, because the next two items that.
Oh my
ADA
God, you know what? All right, so digital accessibility standards, I was ahead of myself, I guess.
Right. So I also discussed that with Tracy.
Okay,
You know, because she was not at the meeting where Christy made the presentation and you know, I think this is in part opinion, you know, so there are different entities within the town that have websites. There's the library website, there's the school system website, there may be the police department, you know, there's the municipal center. Okay, let's say those are three, maybe the police department. They all have their own website. They are all sort of aware of this. They're probably all at different places in addressing digital, bringing their individual sites up to the disability accessibility standards. In my opinion, I think that what we as a committee could offer is perhaps Christy could do the PowerPoint for those entities in one. But Christy, unless you want to enter into a contract with the town, I mean, that's a huge.
Oh, I could not become a disability. No, I look at those job descriptions and I help hire those people, but I don't have the
Right.
expertise.
So it's, you know, making your website fully accessible. And I can tell by looking at the library website that it's not, you know.
Right.
So I think what we can do, and this is what I said to Tracy, that I think the appropriate role for the committee, for our commission, is to say, are you aware? And we have someone with some knowledge on the committee who's maybe happy, this is to do a like 45-minute briefing, just as you did for us, Christy.
Yeah.
If they want to just get this high level overview, but then the work to bring any website, you know, that's way beyond the scope of this committee.
Oh,
what
yeah.
about,
Unless
leaning,
somebody's got that skill set and wants to be hired by the town.
but what about leaning on Mass Office on Disability? I mean, they've always said, listen, we're here. That in the same way
They
that,
do not necessarily have that expertise in MOD.
no,
I
no, no,
would
but
not
what I'm,
assume that. It
well,
is,
I wouldn't assume that either, but maybe they would have some resources and some ideas in addition to the ones we may come up with on our own, as far as vendors or
Oh,
I
Rod,
preferred.
think,
you are
Rod-
saying what we're all saying across the state.
Okay,
Why isn't the state buying one contract rather than having 15 for the state's community colleges, having 3 for the flagships and 8 for the states? Why aren't we being efficiently using our resources to do one contract and have us all do it at the same time and bring us up to code, and then do the same thing for the municipalities? This is the unfortunate part of Massachusetts and our spirit of independence, if you would. We really
we're
do
very
need-
siloed.
yes,
entity.
we need something that can just help us conform to all of this as a municipality, as a state, as a commonwealth. Instead, we're all going to spend the same money, and it's all coming from the state coffers. I mean, it boggles my mind, the inefficiency of redundancy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You would think for sure, like the flagship, you know, campuses, the state universities, the community colleges, because they come under one entity and they should have a look and feel that similar, although they don't. You can go to every community college website and they all look different.
Mhm.
But you know, I think, Roger, I think it's beyond our scope to find vendors for them. I mean, if they
Right.
wanted us to be part of that process for searching for a vendor or contracting, they could reach out to us. But I think, you know,
but it can't hurt to inquire to MOD to see if they have
right. I
made
mean,
any strides in making things more efficient and really top down, that you would think that in their capacity, in their role, that they would want to really
Yeah,
put
they
forth
may.
an effort to that the whole state was up to a certain standard.
Yeah, but there are probably lots of different vendors. I mean, there's a group at UMass Medical School that we worked with, Index, that early on under Work Without Limits, we did a lot of work to make our stuff accessible with them. I mean, but you know, so there are groups, there are individuals, there are entities that do this, and you know, but right now, I guess, yes, we could reach out to MOD, but we don't have a direct ask from the town for that assistance.
No, but I think that in our advisory capacity, it isn't that much of a nudge to just keep the conversation going.
Sure, I mean, you know, again, I'm sorry that Tracy's not here. I think from Tracy's perspective, it's, you know, they're working on it, they're aware of it. She sent me the
Right.
link. I mean, there's a link on she sent me a link.
But it's my understanding though that the town, insofar as the grafton-ma.gov domain, that those that aren't that don't fall under that are sort of on their own.
Yeah.
Police, school,
School,
library.
library.
So
Although they are still subject to these regulations.
They still have to do it.
They're
Correct.
they still
Correct.
have to do it.
right, but it's my understanding that the town is not sort of overseeing that to completion, that each of the entities is sort of autonomous. So not only is it at the state level, are things kind of awry, but
Mhm,
even as a municipality, we have 4 different websites, you know, the
mhm,
main website and then the 3
mhm,
subsidiary websites.
mhm.
It's too bad. I mean, you can see the money where it's gonna have to go. And I don't even want to tell you how much it's gonna cost just to do the initial review and assessment of the
Mhm.
needs before you
Mhm.
even get to,
The improvements.
after an audit, then you have to look at what you need to do short term, long term, and how much that's going to cost. I mean,
Yeah.
it's oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, in my conversation with Tracy, and if you know, we're still meeting when she gets here, I mean, I do think, Roger, it's each entity within the town is responsible on their own. There isn't a single, you know, the town administrator, I don't know, do they have oversight over the school superintendent? I don't even know sort of what the reporting authority is. Um, you know, but unless, I mean, it's sort of up to them to figure out how to pursue, you know,
Right.
this, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Christy, you just said it, the audit, you know,
Yeah.
how to pursue an audit, how to prioritize, what are the resources, what funding do they have for this? Again, we can provide some guidance, but, um, you know, I mean, I think it's at the level of what Christy did. You
Right.
you know, reaching out to MOD, sure, you know, are you guys aware of this? Are you providing, do you have a list of vendors? Are you providing any guidance to entities? Um, you know, Center for Living and Working might do some of this. Not Center for Living and Working, Institute for Human-Centered Design in Boston might be involved in this. I don't even know who has the expertise for this. Um,
Oh, I can tell you because once you start Googling this, you get lots of ads.
yeah. There's probably
I can tell you, yeah, because I get them all the time and I just forward them on because I am not the decision-making authority.
yeah,
Even though I go to these websites and sign up for their newsletters, but
yeah. I mean, you know, the state Compass, the state, you know, procurement website
Right.
probably has a list of vendors for this kind of stuff. But you know, again, you know, for me, it's like, you know, what are the bounds of our responsibility and our scope to address this?
So let's go back to something from several years ago. And I'm just going to throw it out there because Alexis, you may not have been on the commission at that time. I
Mhm.
think you had just started. But when Rob and I were working on some of the mission statement work, we
Mhm.
went to the city of Northampton. And out of
Mhm.
all the towns in the Commonwealth, that one had the most accessible website.
Mhm.
So if you can visit that website just to see the categories of accessibility that you can pull down and select. So for
Mhm.
example, if you're ADHD, it will allow you to do color overlays um, to really help you focus on what you're reading.
Mhm.
It will do text to speech. It will do voiceover. It will do no graphics. It will tag alt format. I mean, it is amazing what built-ins were in on this overlay for accessibility.
Mhm.
And what I think is ironic is that I don't even know if that meets WCAG 2.1
Yeah.
or if it meets 3.0. I mean, if they're at 3.0, that's great. Then they're ahead of the game. You know, we're starting at 2.1. You know, we're going to go forward. So if
Right.
we know we're going to go forward, wouldn't it make sense to look at something that is more compliant and aim for that? But we'll see.
And yeah, underscore what Chrissy was saying, that Northampton was, it was the sort of like a lime green wheelchair icon up
Yes.
there on the top right of the
Mhm.
front
Yeah.
web page, I recall. And it had all these overlays, whether you had dyslexia or yeah,
Yes.
the ADHD, and then
So was it
overlays. And
the town website just
Yeah.
for sort of like the municipal center website, the equivalent to our municipal center website? It wasn't just their,
Nope.
No.
City of
disability committee
Northampton.
site, right? It was the whole thing.
the
Yeah,
whole
it
thing.
was impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's, we can say like, here's a great example, but, or, I think it's, what am I saying? Think, finding these or reaching out to MOD or this, but, who do we then, who do we, what do we do with it then?
I'm wondering, I can't imagine that Northampton would have done this without them having an accessibility advisory commission. I'm wondering if it wouldn't help to see, to connect with them. And
I actually reached out to them. Remember that? And I never
oh,
heard back. Remember, I reached
okay.
out twice and I didn't hear back.
Oh, okay. Then maybe it's the
Yeah.
MOD, not that they're we sometimes look for a higher power to fix all these things, and they're going in their own different directions as well. So
Okay, so do we have, do we have an action from this? I'm looking, right, I just,
I forget who I'm drawing a blank as to who the municipal liaison is for the MOD. I'm just drawing a blank.
would it
Might
be
be on my,
Tracy?
well, I mean, it could be, I guess yeah, I mean, since Tracy's technically the ADA coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
she would be the one to have, the connection with Mass Office on Disability, but I don't know if she has oh, it's Jeffrey Dugan.
Oh,
I
that's the name you wanted. I could have thrown that at you, Rob. I
yeah.
mean, Roger. That's so funny.
So I think it may be a matter of Tracy connecting with Jeffrey.
And
And
who is Jeffrey? That name is familiar.
he's the Assistant Director of Community Services for the Mass Office on Disability.
Okay.
And
Doogan?
no, Dougan. And so I have,
Dougan.
yeah, I have a couple of phone numbers and a work email address.
Okay. Let me show you. I mean, Tracy sent me this link again after we communicated. Hold on a second. Let me find you guys. Let me stop sharing this and just for a second share. This, I mean, this is the link to our own municipal center site about accessibility. Have you all seen this? We work to comply with section 508. WCAG 2.0A.
We're
Not
gonna
up,
make- We're gonna go,
Huh?
we're gonna make that bit, we're gonna go up to 2.1 at least, I
go
hope.
to 2.1. Christy, I mean, I can send this around to, I'll put this, Christy, do you want to put this link in the minutes and people can take a look at it?
Sure, what is that again? Let me,
It's just grafton-ma.gov/accessibility. But I think what this says is we are, if these are the standards that they're working toward, then we, they need to be updated. Right. Roger, do you want to reach out to Jeffrey?
Well, I was thinking that it may not be a bad idea for Tracy to be that point person as the ADA coordinator who also sits on the commission and just say, Tracy, could you introduce yourself to Jeffrey Dugan and inquire about, accessible, approaches to creating accessible websites.
Okay.
I'll do that. I'll do that after this meeting. I'll just send Tracy a quick email.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sorry. Hold on a second. Let me reshare. Let me share. Going back to the agenda now. I don't know if anybody had anything else for other old business.
Old business. No.
Okay. Roger, I have heard nothing. I'm jumping to new business now. I have heard nothing about ADA improvement grants or requests for letters.
No. Okay. So,
And
were
time's
you
time's a
you-
wasting. They're
I know.
due Friday.
Friday. All right. So, all right. Two things. I think you were going to reach out to, all right. So Tracy and I actually did a walkthrough at the municipal center and she was going to put in for, I guess, the ramp, on the front of the municipal center, far left, that, is the entrance way to the, senior center. That there's two entrances. There's a stairwell that has like a couple of steps, but then there's a ramp. I guess it's crumbling. And it was actually poured at the same time as the back entrance. That's closest to the high school, and the food bank side. That I guess they were poured at the same time. And one is doing fine and the other is not. And she was guesstimating 100,000. And it was my understanding that she was going to be putting in for that, that grant. And as a follow-up to our discussion at our meeting, I had overlooked initially, for the first time, I guess MOD gives you a template to populate, so you can just copy and paste when you're actually in their system, that you're not having to do it all at once. You can just save a document. Then when you're finally in the MOD grant app, you can just, it's an exact duplicate of what you're actually going to be, the template you'll be working in. And so, I mean, I could follow up with her after this meeting as well on that.
Yeah, I mean, they're due on Friday.
I know. And then,
So,
and
and I talked to Tracy earlier today and she did not mention it.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, but it's a very short time. I don't.
All right. So I will follow up with her after this meeting on those
Yeah.
fronts with Jeffrey Dugan and the MOD grant. And Dr. Cummings, the superintendent, had sent me a couple of things that look like they're from the school district's self-eval and transition plan. from like 3 or so years ago. And so he had sent a clip on both North Street Elementary Playground. It was a 30 grand approximation, provide an accessible route to end within the playground. Estimated cost 30 grand, and then North Grafton Elementary School Playground, to the same thing. And it was my opinion, and I replied to Dr. Cummings that it was my opinion that from a grant opportunity, it would be best, it would be a greater likelihood to get a grant if you didn't frame it as a playground project, because it would be sort of like a bridge to nowhere, that to create an accessible route to an inaccessible surface and play area is something that would be like, all right, what, all right, so you got the accessible route. What is your plan to create the accessible playground itself? So I offered up the suggestion that it may be beneficial to do the same ask, but then have it be a self-contained project that sort of ends in close proximity to the playgrounds at both of those schools, North Street and North Grafton Elementary on Waterville, that to create the walkway where there is now dirt from the respective parking lots, and then maybe end with a large concrete slab for whatever co-curricular or recess or play area, that would be as a self-contained type of surface. But then say, oh, and by the way, it'll be in such close proximity that it will easily then connect these playgrounds for a future accessibility project. That, in my opinion, that by framing it in that way, it would have a greater likelihood to pass as a standalone project versus as part of a bridge to nowhere. And so, Dr. Cummings and I have had different conversations where they are aware of just a lot of things that need to be addressed, and it's on their radar. And so, we'll see where that lands. If it doesn't make the deadline for this grant opportunity, I had spoken in a recent meeting that the school committee had talked about for FY27, $200,000 that would be requested for various accessibility things as part of their capital project or capital request to town meeting.
Yeah.
And so even if this doesn't happen, it very well could be included in next year's capital budget cycle, which I like, is that we're not just relying on the possibility of competing against countless other towns for these projects. Yeah. So that's where that, so,
All right.
hopefully it'll make the deadline. If it doesn't,
Yeah, can I just say, so the reason I'm emphasizing it's Friday is I have a
Mhm.
very busy week.
Mhm.
So if I need to write a letter of support, which I'm happy to do, I need to
Yep.
know. And I need
Okay.
to, do you know what I'm saying? It's,
Right.
to me, it's, I just, it's budget season. I have a
Right.
really intense week this week.
Right.
So, it's Tuesday. I've heard nothing.
Wow.
If they need the letter by Friday,
Right.
happy to do it, but just need to know. So I can fit it in.
Yeah.
And next fiscal year 27, let's talk about it next year.
No, I know.
Just
Well,
so-
actually, they're actually
or
going to be
whatever,
talking about
next
it.
year.
They're going to be talking about it a lot earlier.
Right, whenever they're talking about it, but
Yeah. But however this rolls about, I think that in the grand scheme of things, in the 5 years has passed where MOD was given 10 million by the state. They could have spent it all in 1 year, but their approach was 2 million a year for 5 years. And I think that schedule ended about 2 years ago. So I'm not sure where they're getting the money from to continue the program, on what appropriation that was. But when you really think about 351 cities and towns vying for $2 million And even an accessible ramp costs 100,000.
Yeah,
It's not a lot of money. And
Right.
so to have the municipal and school, powers that be that put the budgets together, be mindful and have accessibility on their radar as part of these capital budgets, I think is a far better approach than throwing darts at a board once a year for maybe a pittance through
Yeah.
through MOD. That's all.
totally agree.
So,
Totally agree.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Big Truck Day is not this Friday, the next Friday. I am out of town. I don't know if there's any, it seemed like we did not really have anything specific
No.
planned.
no, Mike Kennedy couldn't make Big Truck Day. And I followed up with him this afternoon regarding National Night Out
Mm-hmm.
in place of, and as well as South Coast Tennis Association too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to get one or both Mike or Tom Dodd at South Coast Tennis to be there on that day.
Okay.
With the tennis, it's weather permitting. It was fresh. They were totally ready to go last year.
Yeah.
What I need to do though, notwithstanding waiting Tom, is to contact to preemptively book that the tennis courts for that
Tennis
day.
court.
Yeah. One tennis court that day. And then I know they were looking for an insurance certificate. I remember having to obtain one from South Coast Tennis last year. So
Mhm.
I'm writing a note to myself to book lower tennis court preemptively, and if they can't make it, I'll just cancel out. Hopefully that
Okay.
isn't already booked.
Okay.
And then I already asked Deb Gibbs at Pause for if when she has time to please let the handlers know about the opportunity to participate in the National Night Out on Tuesday, August 5th.
Great.
And of course, we won't hear anything until we get closer, but at least it's in the works.
Great.
Can I ask a question? I absolutely love how Pause has been available. But just from my own perspective, don't bite the hand that feeds you, but I found that just from my own perspective on the outside looking in, that the dogs, I don't know, there's a lot of activity and the dogs are very sort of yippy and nippy. And I didn't know if that was sort of the best scenario to advertise support dogs. They just seemed very at different times unapproachable, that they and so I didn't know if it was just there was so much activity and commotion going on, whether that's unavoidable.
And Roger, you're going to chuckle, but I don't remember that being the case this year or the year before. So I may not be the best person to respond.
It wasn't like the whole night, but there were different times I noticed it because I was standing there and I was like, this dog is gonna bite someone, are they? I was like,
sometimes those dogs are trained to be pretty exclusive to the person
Right.
they're with.
Right.
And when they're approached, sometimes they get nervous about that.
Right. And so
dogs do.
So is it an unavoidable type of thing then? Because of the nature
I think it depends on. I think it does depend on the type of assist dog that you get.
Right.
For example, if it's for a blind person, you're requested not to touch that dog at all.
These were emotional support. These weren't assistive dogs. These were emotional support.
Right, right.
Okay. But still, they're used to
Yeah.
being with one person.
You know,
Right.
like Christie, I don't recall that being the case with the dog.
Not
But I
all
kn-
of them. Not all of them. There were like three. There were three different dogs, and
Yeah. Maybe the
um,
crowd, maybe just like,
yeah,
you know, I mean, I don't know what's involved in training an emotional support dog, but it
right.
may be, as Paul, you're suggesting, it's a sort of one-to-one close relationship. It may be, and maybe they were puppies in training. I don't remember.
Maybe. Who knows?
But we
They
did
were
think
still
that
in
we did want to think about some new ideas outside of just the dogs, though. So
Right.
Right.
let's try to come up with some things for the next meeting.
Yeah, why don't we give it some thought?
Right.
So between tennis and the dogs, maybe one small passive low stakes activity. So that way, in case we don't have the wheelchairs, then we have something
Right.
fill that void.
We had the crayons, the coloring.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
but no one wants to color at that
No,
event.
no, but for them to take things with them. In other words, it
Oh,
wouldn't
okay,
necessarily, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of walk through. There's a lot of pass through.
Yeah.
Not necessarily activities while they're there. It's sort of like, oh, pick this up, pick up this trinket, put it in your bag, and continue to the next table or activity or
You know,
whatever.
I wonder if, you know, we were
Will there
talking
be
early about
exhibitors of any kind?
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, like
what-
at Big Truck Day, I tried to get a vehicle that was adjusted for the handicapped, and I have not been successful at all. Most vehicles built for handicapped accessibility or driving are made out of state. There used to be one Wolf coach in I think it was Auburn years ago, and they moved to New Jersey. So you know,
Yeah. I think it's very much a custom thing, you know. And
Yeah.
frankly, there's a lot of I have a car that's an EV and it's almost all hand controls now, even though
right.
it's not, you know, there's with you know, and you got lane, you know, it's probably there's you know, people that I know have had customized vehicles. I mean, it's an individual
Exactly.
individual thing is customized. One
Right.
thought I had just
So I did put out the word on Facebook.
Thank you,
If
Paul, for doing that because that
if,
was
if
an
anybody has,
action item.
yeah, if anybody has has access to someone who has one of those vehicles, please have them get in touch with me.
yeah,
But I've not heard anything.
yeah.
So
So, but thinking about National Night Out and this, you know, maybe it's even too short notice for this year, but something to think about in the future is, you know, we were just talking, you know, major entities in town, you know, the school system, the library, the police department, do they have, you know, what I would call swag, you know, things that, you know, is there a flyer, a brochure or something on, you know, our, you know, services within the, you know, if you are a person, if you are the parent of a child with a disability, you know, who do you contact in the school? I mean, I don't know. Do you know what I'm something that we could display, not, because I think people aren't gonna necessarily engage. I mean, the Barbie house notwithstanding, that was something that engaged kids, but you know, it is a sort of walking around, checking things out. You know, is there little takeaways that we could have from each, the recreation department, you know, a flyer from each of them, like that's related to special services that a parent or a family might want to know about. I'm just thinking off the top of my head of something that we could have available at a table, you know, take a handout on, you know, the rec departments, programs for, you know, accessible recreation programs for the summer.
What about a QR code that leads people to our web page and have that, you know, on a sheet.
Which webpage? Whose webpage?
Accessibility Advisory Commission. In other words, the work that was done by the subcommittee is are a whole host of things that then
On our page?
yeah, in other words, our all of the resources, the links from the subcommittee work that would allow just to for us to advertise that this web page exists. And here are the types of things that here are
QR code.
the basic, categories, and then, a QR code.
QR code. Yep.
Yeah.
How do
See,
you make it? How do you
I
get a
don't-
QR code to the
don't
website?
know.
I don't even know how you do it, but
How does one do a QR code?
I know how to do it. So we should have a QR code and we should say, hey, stop, use this to bookmark this site if you need more disability information on your
yeah,
on your on your cell phone or whatever. We could do that. That could be a poster, and when they download or go to the QR code, we can give them a mental health sticker or something.
yeah. That's a nice idea.
Cool.
Glad to know you know how to make a QR code.
Oh, it's easy.
See, hey, and then we wouldn't have to do all the printing that everyone has. Everyone has
Yeah.
an iPhone,
Yeah.
and then
I mean, it's certainly easy enough to print out a couple of
everybody
our
has a
pages to say, oh, you
smartphone.
want to see this page? Go here. This is what you'll find.
right.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe we could put it on a poster. We could blow it up and put it on a poster. And here's the,
Right.
Mhm.
And I have a laminating machine too, so maybe we could put a few there and tape them to the table and
Yeah.
and
that's a good idea. And that's pretty easy to, I mean, you could do
Yeah.
a bigger, go to, like that idea.
cool. So any accessible Barbie house? Where did that come from to begin with?
It was,
Well-
Catherine, wasn't that yours?
The
No, I
dolls were
found it-
mine. The
I
house.
found it on Buy Nothing Grafton.
Yeah.
Oh,
Barbie house.
the wheelchair Barbie was yours though, right, Catherine?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm no longer at that house to snag them anyway. So,
Okay.
and I don't know if I'll be available because I'll be getting back from a trip like the day before. So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, these are some good ideas. So we'll make sure to have that on our agenda for our next meeting. And if there are no other new business items, I will just point out that July 8th is very close to that holiday, and I just want to make sure this works for people. Don't know, it's the sort of couple days after the 4th of July holiday.
It works for me.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself.
as far as I know, I mean, my hours are weird right now. So,
I think we're around, but at this point, I don't think we'll be away that day. So we'll just keep the meeting as scheduled. Anything else that we need to address this evening?
I move to adjourn.
Oh,
Do I have anybody to second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, Paul Letourneau,
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
aye.
Roger Trahan,
Aye.
Catherine Dupuis,
I.
Alexis Henry, aye. All right, at 7:39, we are adjourned.